partner, not only do you not live as long, not as happy, more unhealthy, but you could literally suffer to death. You choose is the most important decision you could make.
These people, I don't want no toxicity. I don't want no projects of men or women. I don't want somebody that's just coming in my life to leech from me. You need to tell these people you ain't single because you're not qualified. No, you single because you are qualified. You're not single because you don't have standards. You're single because you do have standards. You're not single because you're not desirable. You're single because you are desirable. And so you got to be able to vet which ones are boys and which ones are real men. Tell them you are single by choice.
People ask me like, how did you get married? Or how did you attract it? First of all, I never asked God for a husband. I asked God to prepare me to be a wife. God prepared me, rid me of the things I need to rid myself of. Help me step into the shoes of filling the roles of a wife. Make me the best version of me. I literally stopped. I cut all conversation with everybody. I stopped. No DMs, no texting. I was in my word every day. I was working out. I was detoxing. I was cleansing. I was just like really building me up to prepare me, preparing me to be the best version of me. And that, I feel like that's the answer to everything.
Apprehensive about long-term relationships.
One of the things that I think is happening is just the unchecked lust. I do believe that that is definitely playing a part of things. You know, the way that the culture and that sex and sexuality is so at the forefront, right? It is creating a numbing of the sacredness and the specialness of sex. I'm just seeing a body. Then I think that that's a big barrier in terms of like being able to commit to someone. But if you're just a body, I can act with impunity. I can act with cruelty, with violence, and just disregard you. But once I'm in, it's harder to do that.
Become achievements. So as I always said that if no one could show their spouse, more people would be married. Because if your spouse is a value that everybody would say, oh, that's good. And so even or not, whether or not that's attainable, you are validating my beauty, my success. So you need to look the part. So now you have people, male and female, saying, there are people that you'll be amazing husband and wife to. But because there's a thwarted view of yourself, there's a thwarted view. I know society accepts that beauty. I know society accepts that man. I need to be with him. So now the idea that you're telling me that I can't be with that is like saying that I can't go to Harvard, can't get the range. I want the best. But we're talking about human beings. But we're talking about human beings, but that's the best.
We're getting older, especially for the 30 plus women, right? You may or may not have children and you're longing for those things. So you have to take whatever comes your way, but that's not the right mindset to have. Just to have a warm body next to you, just to have all of these things that society says. I think that that is a setup and a recipe for disaster. Too many of us are jumping from one relationship to the next, one dating situation to the next, without really working through our ish. And we're wondering why we're dating the same person over and over again. They just got a different name and a different body. It's because you, boo.
Ultimately display, which you probably don't know, is that the male is the problem on the planet. Because an uncontrolled male, yeah, you just said it. Y'all rape, you murder, you do all of these things, and quote unquote, nobody can stop you. You can't even stop yourselves, right? Hence why you need law and law enforcement. And through patriarchal philosophy is what made you all uncontrollable. You talk about me being uncontrollable, much just confirm that with, we can just take it, right? Because that's y'all's mentality, which is one of the reasons why women shouldn't even be with you anyway.
Who is the prize? You said that the female is the prize because she has the power of sex. And you refer to a state of nature, meaning without law, government, and policing. And I said, well, in a state of nature, that's still not true because the dominant male can take the sex. Hence, that's just a lie, what you said.
You're deflecting because you said in nature, males could just take it, and they do just take it. So the question is, if the woman is not the prize, why would males go against her no and just take it? You see, people take money. People rob for money. People rob for food. If the woman is not valuable, why would a male have to take vagina from her?
Would you like me to answer that?
Go ahead.
Does this mean that you yield the floor and you won't interrupt my response?
Go ahead.
All right. I'm going to help you out. You are so broken that you view the
So you ain't got
woman-
to answer. Got you.
No, I got it.
Well, I want to welcome you to the 4th annual Lifestyles Virtual Singles Conference. And as you can see, we have much to talk about today. My name is Lawana Wilson. I am a coach and I am your host for today's Lifestyles Virtual Singles Conference, where we are discussing the state of singleness, the state of singleness. Now, you've heard of the State of the Union address. Okay, State of Singleness address is happening today. Call a friend, tell a friend, share this, like this, and I need you to tap in because we are getting ready to dissect the state of singleness. Now, why do we even want to talk about this? Well, because there's a large portion of people that are single in the United States, and we need to get to the bottom of what is causing that. Is that a choice? Is that other elements, issues that are going on that are causing that? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? How do we as singles see our singleness? And how do we handle it? How are we walking in it? Are we thriving? Are we not? Are we hating it? What are we doing? And so the state of singleness today, we're discussing, and I have an amazing panel of people who are going to help me discuss this topic. And so we're going to start bringing our panelists to the stage. I want you to get ready. If you're on Instagram, hey, just know that if you're on Instagram, you probably want to move on over to the YouTube channel or my Facebook page. As a result of Instagram has constraints on their time, so you won't get the full experience. But if you want the full interactive experience, come on over to YouTube or Facebook, where you can comment, where you can interact with the Lifestyle Virtual Singles Conference crowd and get into this discussion fully. All right. Well, we're getting ready to bring in our wonderful panel, and I am super excited to have these individuals on the conference with me today to discuss the state of singleness. And I want to introduce to you all a young lady by the name of Miss Jasmine, Dr. Jasmine Lee Morris. Dr. Jasmine Lee Morris is a multi-talented author, educator, podcaster, award-winning community leader, and she is the founder of JLM Global Consulting, a communications and training firm dedicated to helping businesses through leadership development and revenue generating content. She is also the host of Go Global podcast, and the author of Heart Rhythms. And I want her to share a little bit about that at some point today. However, would you please welcome to the stage Dr. Jasmine Lee Morris. Dr. Jasmine, how are you this morning?
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone who's attending today's conference. I'm so excited to join you today, Lawana. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm ready to get into this discussion. And we are bringing on to the stage next, my dear friend, my dear brother, Joseph Wilson. He is a licensed professional counselor in marriage and family. He is dedicated to empowering children, couples, and families in overcoming social and emotional challenges. With a rich background in therapeutic services, Joseph has excelled in diverse settings, including in-home, school-based, and residential psychiatric therapy. As the esteemed host of the Love Unscripted podcast, Joseph extends his expertise to millennials, imparting invaluable relationship skills for establishing, nurturing healthy relationships and connections. Welcome to the stage, Joseph Wilson. Good morning, Joseph.
Hey, good morning. Hello. I'm
Good
excited
to see you, sir. Glad you're here. And finally, I want to bring to the stage James Bush, a licensed professional counselor across multiple states, also takes center stage as the treatment director for youth overcoming drug abuse and related to athletes. Beyond his therapeutic roles, he is the dynamic host and executive producer of Mind of a Man podcast, one of my favorite podcasts. James is a co-founder of Let's Have Manversations, and he is your manversationist. And he also has a book entitled Who's the Man? Ladies and gentlemen, James Bush. Welcome all my panelists to the stage. Y'all, I'm excited about this conversation. And let's just jump right in. My audience is ready to go. I see your comments, audience. Good morning. Thank you for being here. I'm glad that you're here. It's time to discuss the state of singleness, right? Let's look at this video that we had just now that prepped us for what we're going to be talking about. This is just a snippet. What you saw in that intro video, just a snippet of what we're dealing with out here in these single streets. Okay? Just a little bit. It's all over the place. Can I say that? It's all over the place.
Yes, you can.
Okay. And so we want to today really start to narrow in on like what's the issue? What is going on? Statistics are showing, Pew Research, ages 19 to 29, 47% of them are single, not even thinking about marriage, and for all intents and purposes, okay, that's maybe a little early, but the statistic is really showing that they're not even marriage minded, not even going in that direction. And I feel like a lot of what we saw in the videos might be part of the problem. Somebody jump in there and give me a little insight on what you think is going on in the state of singleness.
Well, I could jump in. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah. So here on a very basic level, people move towards pleasure and away from pain. Mm-hmm. That's a very basic human function. It doesn't have to be rhyme or reason, but if something is not pleasurable and is painful, we move away from pain, but we move towards pleasure. So people, I think, are not viewing marriage and relationships as pleasurable experiences. Mm-hmm. It's not one that you are overly excited about for various reasons. And as a result, people are choosing to protect themselves, protect their sanity by not engaging in relationships that they view to be harmful. So at the basic level, that's what I would say.
I hear you. I agree. James, you want to jump in there?
Well, I believe it's a trauma response from a lot of the things that happened within the last 40, 50 some odd years. In the 1970s, no contact divorces was approved in the state of California, and that set the precedent for a lot of the stuff that came along the lines. So when you have individuals that this generation who are some of the most informed because of these many computers that we have in our hands at this point in time, and we're looking at these situations that took place and we're just saying, do I want the fallout of that? Do I want family law to rake me over the coals because of an unfortunate situation that I made when my brain wasn't fully formed yet? That is a big situation, and that is a big undertaking for a lot of us to put in. We saw a lot of the stuff that have happened in our communities and with our families. We saw that sometimes maybe our grandfather or father had another family in another part of the city or the country or another country or whatever have not. My thing is that looking at this, it has left somewhat of a traumatic impression upon many of us, to now some of us are gun shy to even try to couple up and have those meaningful connections, which we need. And also too, social media has perpetuated this dysfunction by continuing to show the dysfunction within our relationships and not some of the joyful moments. Now, I say that they aren't coming with their own challenges, but there is joyful in being able to connect with those challenges, get over the hump, and have meaningful connection with someone.
That's so good. I just want to jump in there just to say that I think the original construct has been lost. The intent for why we should get married has been lost in a lot of culture, has been lost in a lot of personal beliefs rather than getting back to the original intent and why marriage was created. Having said that, I think we've also, especially women, have gotten lost in social constructs, right? Social constructs that say you need to be married by a certain time. Social constructs that say the purpose and reasoning for getting married is for you to make your marriage be the thing that held in most high esteem, right? That marriage is this ultimate goal in life, right? And no other thing. I think we've allowed culture, we've allowed personal beliefs to push us farther and further away from the original intent of marriage, was to be fruitful and multiply, which was to adopt this concept that two is better than one, to adopt this concept that we should always be working toward a purpose for our marriage rather than just to fulfill this sexual desire that wasn't the total. Obviously, God created sex for it to be pleasurable and all of those things, but that is not the original intent for marriage, if that makes sense.
I agree. I love all of these perspectives. We definitely have gotten away from the original intent, for sure. And it has become a very unsafe environment. It's to be vulnerable, to be open, to put yourself in a position, because I don't know if we really look at marriage like this. It is literally putting yourself in a position where this person literally has like access to you in a way that no one else does, has leverage in your life in a way that no one else does. I want to even say, I want to use the word control very lightly here, but has a level of control in your life in a way that no one else does. And because we don't consider it, and we haven't been serious about looking at those aspects, and if the candidate that we're choosing for a relationship is able to handle that level of power, I'll say, in the life. I mean, you're the person that literally, if anything happens to me, you have to make the decisions. If I am unable to respond, you know what I'm trying to say? There's a saying that says, be careful who you lie down with, you know. In other words, are you safe enough? Do you feel safe enough to close your eyes and go to sleep with this person next to you? Are they trustworthy to that degree? And so because we haven't looked at marriage and serious relationships from a perspective of being able to trust someone and how deep that really goes, we enter into things very prematurely, very happenstancely, very carelessly. And then we do get hurt, because, I mean, that's kind of inevitable. And then we come out, okay, see, that didn't work. Okay, see how they did me. And now your perspective has been shifted from what you thought was going to be really great and really beautiful, which can be really great and really beautiful. And we know that because we have examples in our lives of people who are successfully doing serious relationships and marriage. So we know it's possible. However, now I have to battle in my mind with what I experienced and what I'm seeing. And then you add to that the culture and social media feeding us with the kinds of things we saw in the video, in the intro video. And that's just a recipe for, like, I don't even know what to do with this. Do I do it, James? Do I get into it? Do I take the chance, Joe? Do I risk it?
Listen, I think it's easier to make evaluations on people and relationships when you have a process. So
Okay.
many of us from a young age have been doing relationships just off a happenstance. You see a girl in your classroom, you start flirting, you ask her out. There was no process. It was just going off of, ooh, I like her, she likes me, so now we go together. But imagine doing that from the age of grade school and being an adult. We start to have different responsibilities and expectations as adults, which we did not have when we were younger. So we didn't even think to consider those in evaluating people that we want to get with. So if we are able to come up with a process that aligns with us, not what is societally popular or even acceptable, but in a way that matches where I want to go with somebody on this love journey, then we can start to pick more objectively. We can start to qualify some people based on our standards and principles. And some people disqualify themselves because they're not in alignment with us. It's not us. You're just not in alignment. You're just not where I'm going. So it's okay. You're not a bad person. We just can't go down this love journey together. And when you can be more objective and have that critical thinking as you're going through this dating and singleness phase, then you can feel more confident that, okay, this person is the right one because I can objectively say we have the same spiritual beliefs. We have the same philosophy on raising children. We may not completely agree on this money thing, but we found a reasonable compromise so we can work this out. But if you don't come up with a process, then you're just going from relationship, hoping that it'll be the right one. So
I really believe firmly, only because I can only speak from my personal experience, that we attract what's in us, right? So in my 20s, I'm no longer there. I don't look it. But in my 20s, I was definitely overly emotional. In my 20s, I was definitely filled with a lot of rejection from childhood, my father not being there, all these things. I was attracting what was in me. But once I started to really deal with, my heart rhythm, once I started to really deal with the rejection and unpack all of those things that I was dealing with, then I started to attract a better type of man for me, if that makes sense. So when I was dating, and I say this to anybody, sometimes women, we don't date multiple people. And I'm not saying you jump in the bed with, but I'm just throwing out there, you need to date multiple people, just like these guys do, so you can vet. Okay, get these people right. So I'm not going there right now. But what I will say is this: once I was attracting, like I attract guys that was full of rejection, and hence we had rejected each other. I attracted guys who was overly emotional. They crying more than me. Like, what? I can't handle that. I can't handle your rejection, my pain, your pain. And so I was just attracting the worst parts of my being, if that makes sense. And so once I really started to dig out and uproot the reason why I was attracting these types of men, then I really started to attract a better version of myself. The best parts of me, the best version of myself started to come to me. So I just want to say that sometimes when you talk about, I think, Joe, you were talking about this formula. Let's start inward first, and then you will start to prescribe. You will then start to have the prescription, right? So then where you can recognize those red flags when you do attract certain people. So I just want to throw that out there. We attract what's in us. So we need to clear up that inside.
Whew. Indeed, we do. I have a friend of mine, her mom says that women we do what we call, she said we do matrimonial dating. Because we are so ready to make this person ours. And so, again, to your point, it would help to date multiple people because, as Joseph said, it helps you be more objectional. It helps you kind of have something to compare to. This person doesn't come into your life and become the end all be all, all of a sudden. You have other options. You have other people, he does. Okay, he liked it. Okay. And you got something to kind of look at versus you are fixated on this one person and they gotta be it. So you're seeing things that that's not even there. You're trying to make them be something that they're not. Okay, come on, James, jump in.
But I want to push back on that just a little bit because I think, while what you're mentioning is serial dating, and yes, I think that is effective to some extent. Mm-hmm. But for me, and Joseph had heard this before, I'm more from a sports background. And so what I notice about the NBA season is that the East Coast teams play the West Coast teams twice a year, once away, once home. The Atlantic Division teams play their own division maybe about 4 times a year. And so we compare that to serial dating. Throughout the season, you're playing a different person every night. You're getting pieces of them, but you're not really focusing in because you're trying to get to the playoffs. Now, with the playoffs, that's where things get a little bit thicker because now it's best of 7. So each game, you have an opportunity to lock in, and you're studying that individual. You're studying that team. You're studying those moves. You're looking at your moves and how you can best work with that person. And when you focus and lock in on one individual, guess what? You're going to see a whole lot more than when you were serial dating in that space. So while I think that's effective mechanism, I will also say that that's only a quarter of the work, because now once you focus in on that individual, now you're going to see some things that maybe weren't glaring. I don't like red flags or anything like that, but that's something that you should look at. That's something that you should pay attention to. And when you start paying attention to it, then you have the other feedback mechanism is, can I handle myself in a relationship with that person? They're cool, they're fun, it's great to hang out, but am I able to do this for not only 3 months, not 6 months, maybe a year, or the next 3 or 4 years, or in what we call, I guess, what the average marriage lasts, 6 to 8 years. A lot of us have not had that developed mindset or developed level of thinking because we are living somewhat in a traumatic response.
I'll take that pushback, James. I like that. That's good feedback on that. I mean, because it is something that's really encouraged, especially for women. Oh, date more than one guy. It has its pros and cons. And I love that this system that you're speaking of right here definitely makes a lot more sense. And it does give a person an opportunity to really, again, like you said, see what you need to see, not overlook stuff, not miss stuff because you have so many on the roster.
Sure. I really feel like that works well for men. But what I'll say is this, as to your point, Lawana, sometimes we as women, we will get locked in on one guy as if he's the only guy. I guess maybe
we do it.
We get locked in. And so that's why I encourage women who talk to me about, dating and things. I said, the reason why I tell them to consider dating other people is because they will get so locked in and almost be at the altar planning their wedding, literally with these guys, or be in this fictitious relationship. And the guy haven't even said that he wanted to move forward with them in that way. So the reason why I encourage women to say, consider who else is trying to talk to you, who else are you interested in that you can, flirt with a little bit to see if there's interest there, is because sometimes we get so locked into this one person and that we just get into this delusional, the best way I can.
There you have it. Our favorite word.
Oh, and I love this moment because you all are speaking in the same continuum. Dr. Jasmine, you mentioned earlier that the work is going to start inside first. That's the first place. I agree. So while you are single, you have to be thinking of, what is my methodology for dating? If I know that there's a season and I'm trying to get to the playoffs and eventually win the championship, which is proverbial marriage, then I need to have a system on how people get eliminated from the playoffs. I can have multiple teams enter the playoffs, but what is the criteria that disqualifies them? How can I have an objective standard that doesn't move based on how much I'm feeling them, how much money they have, how much they give me to feel, but is comparable to my principles and my morals? How do we do that? Once we have that system and we have taken time while we are single to think about those things, write them down, and agree and commit to it, now I can have 3 or 4 people and see, okay, these two disqualify themselves because of this, but I'm going to spend more time focusing on that. And then you just keep going until you find that one that you can make that agreed upon decision that, hey, we've agreed that we match up on these things. Let's take it to the next level. But during the season, you got to have a method for dating the multiple people and then determining at what point do I start to narrow the field. So I think you two are saying the same thing along the continuum, but like you said, it starts on the inside first. But if you're just jumping out there saying, I'm going to deal with 4 people at once, you're going to have your emotions going to be everywhere.
Some people can't handle that.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
Right.
Excellent. I see a great comment here in the comments. James was responding to Dr. Jackson. She was saying most of the ladies really get hung up on one person. James, can you kind of expound a little bit on what you shared with her?
No, I mean, Dr. Jackson, she made a statement about social media and how, I guess, basically it's very divisive. And I mean, it's designed by that. And I was just explaining to her the African proverb was that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, take someone with you. Yeah. And I think that connection is very key, especially in this country. And you ask yourself, when we look at some of the cultural implications of that, especially when it comes to cultures and subcultures and whatnot, those that do well are those that are connected, but those who don't do so well are those that are in their own silos. And that's something that we've gotten away from. There's power in us being connected. There's power in us, man, working and collaborating and getting things accomplished. But when we are being sold a message of divisiveness, of it's me against you and it's you against me, that when we are told that, man, disagreeing is of the devil and, conflict is not of God, then, man, we find ourselves in these different silos that are not suitable or useful for anyone. Because one, now we don't have the training, the understanding, or, man, the rules or the techniques and the skills to be able to get over those humps in that. We've never developed them because we've always told them they're bad and, you just throw it away. And that's unfortunate, because if we're ever going to make any headway in this thing, we have to find out that healthy disagreement is necessary.
Absolutely.
And look, it's not about whether you're of this party or that party. Look, one party all coming together so that we can get a goal of human life accomplished is necessary.
And that's where we sharpen those skills on how to with conflict resolution. And that's a big thing in relationships, in marriage. And if we're so isolated and we can't even, come together on a certain level, then how are we going to manage that in a relationship? And because that's all day, every day. There's always going to be a difference of opinion, not necessarily an argument, but a difference of opinion. And if we're so apprehensive to that, then we really are missing out already on one of the main tools and techniques to having a strong, healthy interaction, relationship, marriage, however you want to call it. We have to know how to engage and agree to disagree, as we say, and be able to have those hard conversations, or conversations that seem confrontational, not harmful in a way, but also we're wanting each other to come towards each other. We're wanting to join together and find that commonality, that common ground. And so I agree with you, James. It makes me think about also that last clip from the video, the intro video. I played that on purpose, not so much because of what they were saying, because that was super volatile anyway, but just looking at each person's body language even. I mean, they were like so set against each other and so, off of just some statements that each other made that they didn't agree on. They didn't even know each other. I think she was a guest on their podcast. So just to show you how we really don't know how to handle each other's opinions and values and ideas, because we don't know how to come together and have those kind of conversations, because we lack that skill of conflict resolution. And so that's a huge thing that I think as singles, we need to work on and develop before we get into something serious, because your person is going to have a difference of opinion at some point in time. How are you going to handle that? Is that a reason to break up? Oh, no, I don't like them anymore. No, ma'am. No, sir. It couldn't be. It doesn't have to be any of that. It could just simply be, we need to have this conversation and hash this out and reach some point of agreement and or at least agree to disagree. I want to kind of start transitioning into our first power session with Dr. Jasmine Lee Morris. I want to get more into our mindset as singles. How do we feel about our singleness? I was reading some information, a few studies in regards to how people feel about their singleness. And people are unhappy about their singleness. People are unhappy about their singleness. However, they don't know the steps to take to A, begin to thrive in that singleness, because you're single until you're not. Right. And B, how to start getting into a space where you can start wrapping up your single season, as we say. In other words, put yourself in a position to meet some people, okay? And start having people to actually consider as someone you might want to be in a long relationship with. I want to get into that mentality of how we see our singleness. And I want to transition to Dr. Jasmine Lee Morris. She's going to be our first power speaker for today, power session. So get your pens and paper, get ready. Dr. Jasmine Lee Morris, the stage is yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Luana. I want to start by saying to everyone who is present here today, the Lord laid on my heart at the end of last year this concept that now is still good. Sometimes we idolize our future so much and we want the future so much. And it doesn't even have to be marriage. It doesn't even have to be a mate. It could be a career. It could be our business is exploding. It could be anything that we have on our heart that we set our hearts on for the future, where sometimes we idolize it so much so that we forget to live in our now. Now, repeat it with me, put it in the chat. Now is still good. Let me tell you why now is still good, because it gives us all the opportunity to understand ourselves in our now. It gives us an opportunity to understand what God is speaking to us in our now. Let me tell you a secret. I know there's a lot of talk about when women should get married. I know that the biological clock is ticking. I know all of that. But how about this? When I was in my late 20s, I am over 40 now. When I was in my late 20s, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, 35. And I knew, based upon my relationship with the Lord, that meant that I would meet my mate or that I would be in some type of relationship by 35. That didn't feel good when I heard that in my spirit. But let me tell you, when I heard that, I still dated. I still got into a relationship. I had a really bad breakup in between that time. And then after I had that terrible breakup, which is in my book, Heart Rhythm, Surviving Singleness with Faith, Know-How, and Grit. I have that on sale. We'll put some links in the chat, but we're not going there just yet. When I realized that the Lord had spoken to me about that, I still dated. I still did some things that, was in relationships and dated and all those things. But the Lord kept bringing me back to this idea, 35. So I failed to live in that now moment. And I got my doctoral degree during that time. I met some great guys who are now friends now that I thought would be romantic relationships. But the Lord was telling me 35. I was speeding through life, rushing to get to 35, rushing to get to that moment. Maybe I didn't hear God. Maybe I didn't hear him in the way that I thought. Maybe I was talking to myself. But when I turned 35, I said, okay, God, my birthday is in May. I turned 35. I said, okay, God, I'm 35 now. What are you saying? By September, I had met my now husband, September 2016. And we have been together from that day forward. But my point in saying this is now it's still good because there is so much for you to learn about yourself. There's so much for you to understand and unpack about where you are in life now. And it gives you an opportunity to seek God for your future. Unfortunately, the statistics say that some of us will not get married. So unfortunately, that's what statistics say. But I think if we lean into the Holy Spirit and if we lean into God to hear what he's saying concerning our future and obey God, that we will be able to understand where he's taking us. Because here's the catch. Before I met my husband, I felt this strong impression. I live in the DMV area. I was working in a federal agency in DC at the time, and I heard the guy say, you need to be at the Congressional Black Caucus. At the time, I was staffing some executives. That's beside the point. And I had went to the caucus for other events. I was staffing some people. I was a former speechwriter. Having said that, I had to take off from work, and I said, I need to be at this caucus. I feel this press to be at this caucus. And let me tell you, the first day of that conference, I met my husband. It was not love at first sight. We met each other. We traveled through the conference all together. But my point in saying is, once you understand what God has said and then you step into the obedience and to move. I cleaned up my relationships. I cleaned up my relationship with the Lord. I leaned into prayer. I leaned into fasting, all of the things that I described in my book. Leaned into clearing out, doing the heart work, doing that inner work for myself. And so then when I leaned into that, I told God I was ready to start dating again because I had took some time off. And so then when I met my husband, we dated, married 2 years later. I believe that God sent me my purpose partner. I believe that I have a divine, what I like to call arranged marriage from the Lord. I believe that it was perfect timing. And one of the other points I want to put forward, during my season of singleness, if that makes sense, I was praying for my spouse. I was praying for him, praying for his school, praying for business. I didn't know where he was in the world. I was praying for him because just because I'm ready, I think I'm ready, doesn't mean they are. I'm going back to my original point. Now it's still good. Just because I was ready did not mean that he would be ready. Just because I thought I was ready did not mean that I was ready. Does that make sense? Put it in the chat again for me. Now it's still good. And so once we met, it's so funny that he would say to me, I was in this relationship and we kept breaking up. I said, because I was praying. And he was all the way in Florida. He was all the way in Florida. And he had to make his way up to Washington, D.C. for us to meet. So just because you are ready does not mean he is ready. Does not mean he is in the state that you are currently living in. I prayed a prayer and it said, let my husband relocate to locate me. Hello? Oh, I hope somebody felt that. I prayed a prayer. And it was a simple prayer that I got out of this prayer book that a friend gave me. Let my husband relocate to locate me. And that's exactly what God did. It was funny at the time. It seemed like a joke that my friends and I had together. But that's exactly what happened. He had to move from Florida. He had to come to DC from Florida to meet me because we were destined to be together. And so I want to encourage anyone who desires a mate. I want to encourage anyone who is seeking the Lord about their next stage in life, whether you're married, single, divorced, or is it complicated. I want you to lean into your relationship with the Lord in ways that you get direction, clear direction, whether that is you will get married right now or not right now, or maybe it's a no. And I know that sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow, but you have to understand that is where the Lord will have some of us sometimes for whatever reason. But if there's the desire on your heart, I pray that you would ask the Lord to make your desires my desires. Let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so I would also encourage you to check out my book, Heart Rhythm: Surviving Singleness with Faith, Know-How, and Grit. It is available on my website for $10 today. I also have a journal that's available for $10 today. You can get both for $20. And I would love for you to connect with me. I have a podcast called Girl Go Global, and it's about embracing your multi-layered lives with faith, know-how, and grit. And we have those tough conversations about relationships. We have those tough conversations about all of the things. And I endeavor to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ through my podcast and through my business. I have some courses available on my website. We're going to drop some links in the chat. I have some free resources on my website to encourage you, and you can download it and get access to that immediately via your email. So I'm going to drop a few links in the chat for you to have. They will be made available through Lawana, who can share those things with you. And I just would love to continue to connect with you. I just want to encourage you before I hop off the stage that now is still good, that there is purpose and intention for your life. Don't forget to pray for your spouse while you're waiting, because you never know what they're going through. You never know the trauma that they're experiencing through their life. You never know that once you step into some cruise ship or whether you step into some business meeting, whether you're going to bump right into your spouse. And so that is the time that I have, but I would love to connect with you. And I want to encourage you today that now is still good. You still have time to understand yourself in a different way. You still have time to pray for your spouse, and you still have time to get the direction you need for your future and your life. LaJuan, I want to give the time back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jasmine, for encouraging us in our, as we like to say, single season. Can I be funny for a moment and say I'm tired of hearing that? But for real, yes, our single season. It has been just a interesting journey for me, for many of us. And I really believe Dr. Jasmine's book speaks to that experience. And so I need us to head on over to wherever you purchase books. It's available on Barnes & Noble. It's available at Amazon. You can go to her website and purchase. Those links are being dropped in the chat as we speak. Check out Dr. Jasmine's book, Heart Rhythms. It is not only a book, but as well as you see, a guided journal as well to walk you through whatever stage of singleness you are at. Dr. Jasmine, you mentioned in your book that there was a point in your singleness where you were surviving. You were in a space of where I just got to survive this. Can you talk a little bit about what that survival was like for you?
I didn't do well in my singleness. I wasn't doing well. I'm being very real with you. I cried a lot. I was, almost like shaking like, oh my God, where's my husband? Oh my God. Right. But I didn't know that, I wasn't ready when I thought I was, and I would have messed it all the way up. Right. And so that's why the book is called Heart Rhythms.
Yes.
Because my rhythm was off. It was fighting to get to a future. I was idolizing this future so much so that I wasn't present in where I was at the moment. And it was making me anxious. It was making me full of anxiety about it. It was just making me make improper decisions when it came to certain men. It was making me just truly anxious. I was living on a time clock, going too fast when I needed to slow the pace of my heart rhythm down in ways that allowed me to heal, in ways that allowed me to understand myself, in ways that allowed me to know that I needed to pray for my spouse.
Yes.
In all those ways.
Yes.
And so because of that, that's why I was, I called the book Heart Rhythms, because this is about finding steadiness in all areas of your life.
I love that. I love that you are honest about where you were in that process, because there is this sort of, this might be in Christendom or in the church, this sort of misnomer that singles are, that we got to put on this face and we got to look like that we are just living this life and powering through it and nothing bothers me and I'm okay with my singleness, when that is not always the case. And we have to be honest about where we are in our singleness before we can really start seeing some progress to move in a different direction that is more positive, that is healthier for us. And it came to a point, as you say in your book, that where you were like, okay, either I'm gonna be miserable or I'm gonna get this heart rhythm together and get in line with what God has for me, so that I can actually live and thrive until I meet whoever I'm going to meet.
Right. Because I was going to this, I talked about the Congressional Black Caucus that they have it every year in DC, the political thought leader conference. And let me tell y'all, ladies, I ain't trying to be funny, but there's a lot of men there. I met at least 4 or 5 guys there that year that I met my husband. And, he was the one that stuck, obviously. But I say that jokingly, but I'm serious. I've met him. But what I'm saying is you got to show up in your life in ways that allow you to get out. I was going to go to the caucus by myself. I just happened to go with one of my friends. Right. And because she was there, they were at the same table. She kind of introduced me. And then we, We met and we had a good time together. But my point is saying you got to get outside. You got to be willing to go
Listen.
places yourself. I have heard a lot of men say that they will not approach women when they're in a crowd of women.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've heard it many times.
Many times.
Yeah.
And so I just so happen to be with a friend, but sometimes you got to go out to dinner. A lot of times I would meet guys at the gas station for some reason too. Like it's just really crazy how sometimes that works.
Yes.
But my point is, I agree with what you're
Yes.
saying.
Yes. Be outside, ladies. Be where the men are. I know we're tired of hearing all the tips and tricks.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are legit. Some of them, you know. But Dr. Jasmine, I just want to thank you for your encouragement for the ladies to know that, hey, it's tough sometimes, but it doesn't have to just be that way.
It doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to just be that way. And we can make that transition from surviving to thriving in our singleness. And on that note, I want to bring back my gentleman for the second round of our panel on the state of singleness. So guys, come on back. We're going to get into a little bit about I want to talk a little bit about some of the tools, techniques, some of the ways for us to start focusing on putting the focus back on ourselves, focusing on ourselves, and really fine-tuning where we are in our singleness. I'm hearing a lot of things that were mentioned earlier in our first panel. It's too risky. I'm not going to risk a relationship, but I really want one, but it's too risky. Okay. How do we work that out? We're battling with that on the inside. Dr. Jasmine. Oh, I hate it here. I hate it. What they say, singlehood is the ghetto. I hate it here. Get me out. Okay. Okay. So we got that. We have, I have children from previous relationship. I don't know. They say that, your value goes down when you have children from another, okay. The guys are like, it's too much pressure. They want too much. I can't live up to that. So how can we start tweaking how we're thinking about singleness, how we're thinking about relationships, so that we can start moving towards something healthier and really get the courage back to get back out there and start meeting people?
Yeah. So, go ahead, James.
Go ahead, Joe. You got it.
So what I was going to say, I'm going to give a tool in my power hour on something that we could all use, and it can transition from singleness to when you are in a committed relationship or when you're married. But one of the things we have to realize, especially with relationships, they are going to be a risk. Mm-hmm. You won't believe how many people who thought that this is the one and they went through a divorce. I'm not too sure that too many people get up to the altar and they're thinking at some point we are going to be in court fighting over how to split up visitation for the kids. Some people come into it thinking that. And it is a risk. But one of the ways that we can work on managing our anxiety about risk is to inform ourselves and have I keep coming back to this, maybe it's because I'm a marriage family therapist and we deal in systems theory. There has to be a system for mitigating how much risk you are willing to involve yourself in a relationship. You have to start thinking about that. When you are doing stock market, you have to be able to say, hey, I'm willing to go in with this $100 and lose it and be okay, and figure out what my threshold is to where I am not going to put myself at such a disadvantage that I no longer want to participate. So if 100 is my threshold to where it's enough risk, but also I'm willing to lose it, and it's not enough to scare me from going back into the stock market, figure out what that limit is. Figure out how many times you can get relationships wrong before you take a step back and then reevaluate your process. Have that already thought of while you're single. Don't be trying to do that while you're in a relationship, while you're dating. It's hard to do that. So understand, what is my threshold for risk? Figure out what that is. And once you figure out what your threshold is, operate in that and then be okay tweaking it. You may determine, okay, I am okay being this vulnerable in the dating phase on date 2. Let me start really trying to step out there and see. But if you don't have a barometer for how much risk you can take, you're going to be overextending yourself, and then you hurt yourself because you weren't prepared for that level of risk, nor were you prepared to accept the level of failure that may come as a result of it. So be mindful, be cautious, start thinking, relationships are going to be a risk. But how do I protect myself? How do I mitigate those risks? How much am I willing to invest? How do I not overinvest in a product that is not going to yield a positive return? That is a you question. That's nothing me, James, Dr. Jasmine, LaWanda, that's not anyone can tell you what it is. You have to figure that out. And that is going to come through what I'll talk about a little bit later is introspection. So I'll throw it over to James.
Man, he went and took all the good answers from that.
He said it all. He said it all, Joe.
He said it all. But I mean, long story short, man, a lot of times what I find is people have such an investment within and pointing the finger at another individual in a failed relationship. They don't do, as Joe just mentioned, the introspection to ask, okay, what award-winning dysfunctional role did I play in this process? I mean, that happens. I mean, slippers count. Just because you were ignorant to the fact that you didn't know how the rules of how to play that game doesn't mean the game doesn't go on. It just means the game swallows you up. So my point being in all of this is that we have to do more of a deep dive. I had to do that with my last relationship. I had to deal with that with the relationship before that one. It's just saying, what role did I play in all of this? It's like, yes, I messed up. Yes, didn't get the information I thought I would get from my father or mother, and I never saw that. So I'm not blaming them, but it just means that it wasn't there. So it wasn't there. So there was some dysfunction with that. But because of grace, I am in a space now where I can move better. I can do better. I understand. I can teach those other individuals that will need that information as well too. We all can be blessed from our lessons. And that's the power of conversation. That's the power of sharing with one another. When that doesn't take place, what happens? Then we continue to perpetuate this dysfunction over and over again. Our kids see it. Now they give up. One thing I learned was that when I was working at Cumberland Heights, it's a treatment facility in the Nashville community. And there's this thing on the biopsychosocial social. There's this question that comes when it talks about relationships and sex for the 13 to 14 to 15-year-old kid, and it says, who taught you about sex? And they said, what did your parents give you that information? And one of the amazing things the kid will say is, my parents taught me that marriage and relationships aren't worth it. They don't talk together. They don't sit together. He's in the garage. She's upstairs playing Candy Crush. And it's just that we all are just so separated. So guess what? That's the messages that we are sending to our young people in this. And that's why a lot of times we're seeing the numbers and the statistics in where they are right now. So my point being is that we all have to deal with us, but looking at ourselves in the mirror for who we truly are can be very jarring to a lot of us.
This is definitely shifting in the direction that I wanted to go. Dr. Jasmine, go ahead, jump in there.
I love this conversation, but I'm talking about it from the married woman's perspective. If you don't get that stuff right now while you're single, when you come into a marriage, a union, it'll be amplified. Let me tell you, okay? Let me explain to you how, you're bringing two personalities together into one household, trying to figure it out, and you're going to have disagreements. I don't care how much you love them, how much y'all get along, or how good all of it is, right? You're going to have challenges. You're going to have some things that you face. And unless you figure out how to manage that conflict, you're going to be headed for divorce like the other 50% of the world is already done. So I think it would behoove anybody who is looking to get married, right? Or looking to be in a long-term relationship that leads to marriage, to work on that part of themselves now, to figure out those best ways to manage conflict, to manage those challenges, even amongst friends. If you could find some better ways to navigate that space, can prepare you for the next level of your life in a relationship.
100% agree. And I'm loving where we're going with this, because we're starting to look at the whole introspection part of it, which is probably, I might spend a little bit too much time there, but it's my favorite part, because I really believe that you cannot change other people. You can inspire, you can motivate on some level, but you cannot change. When you think about how hard it is for you to make changes, for you to stay on these New Year's resolutions and lose all this weight and eat better. And okay, I'm doing dry January. We're not drinking. Okay, I'm doing keto. Okay, whatever we're doing. Think about how hard it is for you to manage you and keep you on track.
Wow.
Why do we think that we can spend so much energy and effort towards someone else and try to make them change? You cannot. The only changes that are going to be made here. And so with that, we want to transition into our second power session with Joseph Wilson, who's going to give us some tools and techniques about this whole, how do we get ourselves together? That's who we're responsible for. I want to thank again Dr. Jasmine Lee Morris for being with us today. And Joseph, the stage is yours.
Oh, let's do it. So I'm going to share my slides. I have it already here. Let me see if the moderator could bring it up. Okay, for some reason not showing the title, but what's up everybody? My name is Joseph Wilson, marriage and family therapist, and I'm loving this conversation about singlehood. And I want us to focus in on that aspect of introspection. So the title of this is supposed to be Unveiling Self-Discovery, the Transformative Power of Journaling for Introspection and Personal Growth. And you've noticed that topic of introspection has come up because honestly, it is the key to personal growth. And it is one of the keys to resolving relationship and marital problems. I'll talk about that later. But let's talk about one of the things we've had is why are so many people single? And let's talk about it for a little bit. Economic factors. It costs money to date. It costs money to do relationships. It costs money to raise a family. If you have kids, you know, kids can be expensive. Economic factors play a part. What about changing social norms? Changing social norms. Society has different labels and structure for men and women. They are ever changing, and not everybody feels like they fit into one of those boxes. Society has an idea of how men are supposed to operate in a relationship, and there's an idea of how women are supposed to act in a relationship. But men and women are collectively saying, you know what? I don't agree with that. And since I don't agree, I'm not going to participate in this thing called relationships. Also, delaying life milestones. With the increase of education, people, especially millennials, I'm in the millennial range, we are foregoing marriage and creating families in order to pursue personal, educational, and career endeavors. We see relationships as important, but it's not at the forefront. We're not positioning that first. We're not getting married first, then going to college, then starting our career and all that stuff. No, we are deciding that we want to do things differently. Also, the high divorce rates. People are listening to other people's reviews on how marriage is going, and it's not looking good. I don't know if you're like me, but when I get on Amazon, I look through the reviews. I look at the extremely good 5-star reviews, but I also like to look at the 1-star reviews. But unfortunately, right now, it seems like marriage relationship has a bunch of 1-star reviews, and people are deciding to forego it. But there's another reason that I think is one that doesn't get talked about, but I think people are going this direction, and for good reason. And it's focusing on self-discovery. People are deciding, you know what? The dating scene is crazy. Let me start focusing on me. Let me not be part of the problem, and let me be part of the solution by coming into the dating space healed, by coming in well, being able to communicate with the skills necessary. People are doing that. So let's talk about introspection and singlehood. So there's two things that introspection does for you as a single person. It allows you to do self-discovery. Being single provides an excellent opportunity to focus on yourself and understand who you are as an individual. Introspection allows you to explore your values, interests, and goals without the influence of a partner. We all know that when we get in relationships, our partners have this ability to influence us, as they should. Dr. John Gottman says that one of the principles for a healthy and successful marriage is allowing your partner to influence you. But unfortunately, if you do not already have your morals, your principles, your goals intact, then you're going to be swayed and moving based on the influencing of somebody else. Self-discovery allows you to have your own personal time to get that figured out and situated without the voices of other people. Also, introspection allows for increased self-awareness. Introspection fosters self-awareness, helping you to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, and areas for personal growth. These are ways that introspection is going to be beneficial in singlehood. So we got to have a shift in our mindset. We got to start transitioning from seeking to being the right partner. So much of the conversation in relationship spaces is how to identify a right partner, how to not let people treat you a certain way, people meeting your standard rather than you lowering them. It's always other-centered. But in fact, we have to be able to transition from not just seeking the right person, but being. And this mindset shift is going to involve practice, and we're going to have to be able to shift our perspective to personal growth rather than evaluating other people. Because like Luana said, we are not going to be able to change other people. Even when I do couples work, one of the things that I do first is have skills that they can work on individually so that the collective relationship can flourish. Because think about it, one of the reasons why you're in therapy in the first place is because what you're doing already isn't working. So how do you start to focus on, okay, what am I doing wrong? Let me take responsibility and accountability for my role in the dysfunction before moving forward. If you're single, you could still take that same approach. What have I been doing that has not been helpful to creating and maintaining healthy relationships? So we're going to talk about a practice, a strategy, something that I do personally, something that I recommend to clients, and something that's been around for a long time that is extremely powerful and allows you to really go on this introspective journey, and it's journaling. So journaling involves expressing your thoughts and emotions on paper. Now, we live in a digital age where everybody likes to type and text, and this isn't always going to lend to the same effect as you would, because so much of our phone time is entertainment rather than information and other things of that nature. So putting it on paper, offering clarity and understanding. For those dealing with stress, depression, and anxiety, maintaining a journal can be highly beneficial. Think about it. Dealing with relationships can be stressful. It can cause stress. Dealing with relationships, especially a bad one, can cause depression. And if you're dating, going out there to meet someone for the first time, anxiety does arise. So journaling is a great way to start jotting down, writing down your experience, writing down what you want to do differently. It provides a valuable tool to manage emotions effectively, enhance overall mental health. So some of the benefits of journaling is it provides an opportunity for positive self-talk and identify negative thoughts and behaviors. It also enhances our critical thinking. It allows us to track progress and growth. It can improve our communication skills, and it encourages self-confidence. So I'm gonna talk about 5 journal prompts that you can start doing today. Write these down. These are journal prompts that you could do today to start your introspective journey, especially as we start to work towards building and creating healthy relationships. So the first one, what does a healthy relationship look like for me? Not to your auntie, not to your mama, not what society, not what social media thinks. What does a healthy relationship look like to me? You have to define that. Write out what we view to be a healthy relationship, and writing out what we view as a healthy relationship can help us determine if the image in our head is in alignment with our principles. Because sometimes what we think in our head, it may not always come out right in person. I don't know if you've seen an outfit that you may want to wear, but when you actually put it on and it's not in alignment with the vibe that you're going for the occasion that you're trying to do. So think about that. What does healthy relationship look like for me? You may have to do some research on what healthy relationships look like, but you get to identify what I align with, what works for me, and what I want my future relationship to look like. Prompt number 2, what does romance mean to you? It can be hard to share with others what we cannot describe. So think about think about how and what relationship looks like to you, how it's expressed, and how you best express it to your partner. Think about these kind of things, because one of the aspects of healthy relationships that some of the foremost experts encourages people to do is to have consistent date nights. And the idea is to create and foster romance over the lifespan of your relationship. But if you cannot identify what you consider to be romantic, how can you share that with your partner? We often get mad at people for trying to make us read their mind. Journaling what romance looks like. How does it make you feel when you reserve certain gestures? What do you do to try to show that you're trying to be in a romantic state? Writing those things out will help you to be able to describe what romance looks like to you. Number 3, how do you want love communicated to you? And this is very unique and individual. We talked about social media. Take social media out of your processing and think about, how do I want love expressed to me? How do I want it communicated? Consider all the ways in which you communicate love and how each gesture makes you feel. Which do you like most? Which can you do without? It's okay to say you don't like certain expressions of love. That is going to allow space for your partner to do something different and to be able to meet your need. Communicating that to them, or to be able to communicate that to them, means that we have to take time to have thought about it in the first place. There's many times in sessions I'll see people say, hey, how do you want love expressed to you? And I don't know. Well, if you don't know, it can be difficult to share that to others. And as we know, communication is extremely important. And when we can communicate wants and needs, our needs can be met and our partner can meet them to the best of their ability. Number 4, describe what commitment means to you. First, describe what commitment means in a relationship. That's going to look different to everybody. Some people have different parameters around what commitment looks like. Some people may say, hey, I'll let you decide that. I'm not going to put out any examples because people can run with them. But whatever you decide commitment looks like, write that down. Then write about how commitment is expressed in a romantic relationship. So first start with commitment and your job. What does it look like to be committed to a job? What does it look like to be committed to a goal? What does it look like to be committed to yourself? Those are things to write down, and then transition it to romantic relationships. How do I see a romantic relationship expressing commitment? How does it make me feel? What does it look like? And how do we cultivate this safety that commitment often brings? And number 5, and this is one that a lot of people haven't taken time to look into, how has your childhood impacted your view on romantic relationships? So reflect on the impact of your family of origin on your perspective of romantic relationships. Our family tells us different things about relationships, and they're not always in alignment with us, and they're not always healthy. Explore the messages that were conveyed within your family regarding romantic relationships. Take them down. So when it comes to what a man is supposed to be, evaluate whether or not you align with that. As a woman, your family gave you certain rules, regulations, principles to follow. But do those align with who you are, where you're going, and how you want your relationship to be? We have to think about those things. If there are some that you align with, take them down, write them, and utilize them. But if there are some that don't align with you, write those down as well and remind yourself that this is not how I want to operate, and then start to add more things that does align with what you want or how you want to show up in a relationship. But either way, taking time to write down these prompts and write your responses takes the information out of your head and puts it on paper, which allows you to be objective and allows you to critically think about the responses you gave. So in closing, the quote's not showing up. So in closing, I just want to remind you, unlock the potential within you to create a meaningful and fulfilling relationship. So I'll just go back through the prompts one more time so everyone can see. Prompt 1, what does it look like? What does a healthy relationship look like for me? Number 2, what does romance mean to you? Prompt 3, how do you want love communicated to you? Prompt 4, describe what commitment means to you. And prompt 5, how has your childhood impacted your view on romantic relationships? So I hope this was helpful for you all. remember, just do the internal work. Do the internal work. The other person, they're going to be there, and they have their own troubles and challenges to work on their own. But let's make sure that we can get ourselves straight, that we can give ourselves the best opportunity to show up as our most authentic and truest self, and be able to advocate, share our wants and needs, and to be a contributing member to a relationship. So that's all I have. Thank you all for being a part of this.
Thanks so much, Joseph. I am always ready to learn when Joseph is on the stage. He is always going to come with steps for us to actually follow and actually see what's going to happen, actually see some results that will happen in our lives. And so I want to thank you so much for just a thoughtful presentation and the tools that we need as singles, tools that we need. Now, Dr. Jasmine came in here with some PowerPoints and shook y'all up a little bit, okay? And got you thinking. And then Joe followed up with some steps. Okay, so these are steps that we are going to take. This conference is a little different from my last three because I really scaled things down because I needed us to focus and I needed us to really get something tangible to take away with, not just inspiration, but actual tools. And so the panelists that I have lined up are doing that. They have actual tools, they have books, they have resources, and they're wanting to see you thrive and grow in your singleness until you're not single, okay? So that's what this is about. And I want to thank you, Joseph, so much. Joe, you have, am I correct? Do you have something coming up in March, that a big debut
Absolutely.
that you want to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have my first book/journal coming out March 19th, and it's called Flip the Script: From Lost to Love. It's the 30-day relationship preparation journal where it has prompts and activities that you can do to better propel yourself for a romantic relationship. Similar to these prompts, but there's more activities. But check it out. March 19th is when it will be available. So just follow me on all social media and you can see when that book comes out.
Please, please mark your calendars for March 19th and be on the lookout for Joseph's book to drop. I'm excited about that tool. I know it's something that I'll be adding to my single repertoire. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate you so much. And I just love what you shared with us just now. And I want us to I really need us to walk these things through. These are things along the lines of the introspection and the growth that Dr. Jasmine talked about, that Joseph now is talking about, that again, if we want to see something different, if you want something different, you got to do something different. Okay. And so these are the things that little by little in increments, you can start doing in your single life to start seeing some different results. All right. Joseph, thanks again.
No problem.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Joseph leaves the stage, I want us to get ready for our final power session of the day. Sort of final, because I'm going to wrap it up. However, this gentleman that I'm bringing to the stage next is going to walk us through some things that I think, as well as my previous two speakers, will really impact you, really make you think outside of your normal and your usual. I can depend on James Bush for that. He is the guy that challenges you and gets you to think outside of your usual space that you're in, okay? So James Bush is coming to the stage. I'm going to turn it over to him. Get ready. Don't tap out yet. I need you to be fully engaged because you don't want to miss what James is about to share with you. James, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Luana. Once again, my name is James Bush. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Tennessee and a bunch of other states. No, this is not Manversation Mornings or anything along those lines, which I do at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on many of your social media platforms. But I'm here to talk about the singleness status check. When I first got this vision of it, it's like when we were driving in a car and we have a dashboard. The dashboard has all these different sensors and lights that are attached to it. Those sensors can let you know when something's wrong with the engine. Those sensors can let you know if something's wrong with the radiator and it's car's overheating. Those sensors can let you know basically when the car is moving 80 and a 40. They come to give us information. And what I'm finding is a lot of us do not have the necessary information about our lives, who we are, our being, our hurts, our pains, what we have held on to since childhood that are affecting our current now. So let's start this process now. What I'm saying is that it is a singleness status check. Let's look at asking yourself the question, who are you? And I'm not saying not the beautiful person. I'm not talking about the lovely one that puts on the good makeup or the one that does their hair or shaves their hair or anything along those lines. I want to know from a feeling standpoint, who are you? So in order to do that, let's go to the term emotional intelligence and let's talk about feelings, understanding your feelings and understanding the feelings of others. With emotional intelligence, it came out in a Goldman book around the 1995 or so. So we just been roughly about around a good maybe 30 some odd years, almost 30 some odd years of having these conversations of doing the self-work, understanding who we are, where we're going with things, understanding who can stand with you when you're on the way to your purpose. Because unfortunately is that if you don't know you, you have then attractions to all other individuals who will just sign up to ride with you. We're talking about singleness. We're talking about the status check. We're talking about emotional intelligence. We're talking about knowing where you are and where you're going. But I'm lazy, so that doesn't show up well in relationships. I have a quick temper. That doesn't show up good in relationships. My conflict resolution skills suck, so then that doesn't show up good in relationships, man. I mean, basically at times, man, I can have them, and I'm raw with mine. I got a mentality of a whoremonger. That's definitely not going to show up good in relationships. You have to know who you are, the inner individual, the enemy in me. But again, a lot of us don't know that. We don't know that we're quick-tempered. We don't know that, man, that sometimes our verbiage is offensive to other individuals who can no longer stand with us. We were potentially plastered with sometimes the ghost of Caesar's past. And that's when I'm getting to my next points, is not letting the past break your future. So when I say that is that we have a romanticization about our grandparents and our parents and the longevity of their relationships that they had. Not based on any facts. We just said, hey, they stayed together for 30 or 40 years. They're awesome. I should do the same thing. Not understanding the fine-tuned complexities of it. I've said this to many of my friends like Dr. Cheathon, is that, look, back in the 40s and 50s, a lot of your grandparents weren't leaving to go anywhere. Jim Crow was walking around. The resources that we have today, they didn't have back then. So guess what? Sometimes it was a matter of convenience. Sometimes it's a matter of, hey, look, I need to just soldier on, become resilient, and move past this. So basing our current situations today on those items of yesterday can be offensive to your future. Again, it can be offensive to your future because that is something that, it's like living on the experiences of others as opposed to in your current reality. Oh, by the way, you developed these items while you were watching your mother and your father. You saw your father potentially assault your mother. You vowed that you would never do that. You vowed that you would be in relationships and that you were going to make sure that your family would stay together. You were going to make it work, make it work, make it work. But unfortunately, you based your approach on trauma, on dysfunction, not on research, but you based it on a feeling that was faulty at times. So now in the relationship, you don't show up as your best self. You show up as someone that's in defense of an idea. And that idea has to be unlearned so that you can unpack your fullness of you and you can potentially go on to live full relationships and healthy relationships with another individual. We got to get past that. We got to get out of that. Those are the things, again, that keep us bound. So then next thing I want to throw out there is the healing aspect of it. Are we healed? Do we know what healing is? Do we know what forgiveness is? These are some of the things that are keeping us single. Because yes, we go and we date other individuals and we meet people and everything, but guess what? Sometimes people can see, man, the pain in you before you see it. And that's unfortunate. Are you healed? What does healing mean to you? Does that mean that you have been built up at a tough exterior and so that now, man, you're good, you're okay, You're able to go out there, you make enough money, you're able to take care of yourself, you look good, you smell good, you have all that. But do you even know what healing actually means? Because many of us don't. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't for one point in time. I thought it was just meant that I was able to move on and get to the next step. Yes, I'm making money. Yes, I'm successful. Yes, I can date various individuals and everything like that. I'm good, but no, I'm not. I'm not good. My self-esteem is somewhat shot. I don't have the emotional intelligence to understand, what was actually helpful and what was hurtful. I kept pointing the finger at my exes as opposed to looking at this guy. And in doing that, I never was able to get past those points until at some point in time, so you know what? Yeah, I played that dysfunctional role. Yes, I am a hustler. I do value mission, purpose, passion. But sometimes, what expense did that come with? Did my partners have those understandings as well, too, of what was all taking place? Did I communicate that effectively? Did I communicate that effectively? Did I just believe that they were supposed to just get in the seat and run with me? Again, unlocking what did you do? Many of us don't do that. We have so much to say. Okay, yes, guess what? He cheated on you. Got you. But you knew he was a cheater. He cheated when he got with you. Guess what? You knew, man, that they weren't good with money. Well, no, they actually showed up that they weren't good with money. But believe it or not, they've never been good with money. They've had cars repossessed. They've had to move out of homes. They had to move out of home to come stay with you. Again, we're seeing these things. We're still partaking them. Because sometimes a feeling of loneliness, lack of companionships, emotions, it propels us into spaces that we shouldn't be in. Again, like Dr. Kiaundra teaches me, we all play a role in this. I don't care if your role is huge or small. We play a role. And so we got to start doing the work. We got to start. So my work is simple. I use a number of different things. Joseph, he mentioned around journals. I have this thing, what I call is thoughts. I'm not going to show you all of them, but thoughts. These are thoughts that I have when I'm just walking around on a daily basis. There are thoughts about my clients, thoughts about my work, thoughts about my kids, thoughts about anything. I'm writing them down, typing them down. And as I begin to type them down, I begin to go and re-examine them in my quiet time. Yes, quiet time, because I don't have to be around everybody all the time. Quiet time. And I'm digging deep and just saying, okay, why was I thinking that? Why did I believe that? What did that mean to me? Why am I still single? Why would I still be single? Is it that the fact that I'm not ready to date? Is it that fact that I'm not ready to be in a relationship? Or is it the simple fact that maybe that I don't know where my journey fully lies? So maybe I just want to just take that off a little bit. Oh, come on, y'all. I'm going to say we got to be honest. And a lot of you guys aren't. A lot of you guys think you show up as one of the God's gift to the earth best partners to be with. And I'm like, there's so much work to do. There's so many beams in our eyes that we have yet to begin to extract. We got to be honest. And when we start to do that, that's when the blessings start. Because I'm being honest. Now I'm walking in purpose. Now as I begin to walk in purpose, then man, everything in this moment is attracted to me. But because my standards of who I am and as I walk in purpose are set in stone, it's like, yeah. In the end, it can only be one. Not everybody can swim in that direction. And so my thing is like, guys, we have got to continue to work on us. Work on your thoughts. I use positive affirmations. If I've been in relationships and I may have had low self-esteem, low self-worth, I'm going to use those positive affirmations. So I'm going to say, I am healed. I am a winner. I am wonderful. I am grateful. I'm going to start to say those things. I'm going to speak to that. Why? Because when you start speaking those positive affirmations and you start to believe them, guess what? The brain, this thing right here, is going to start to make striations, patterns inside that based on what you are saying and what you are feeding yourself. So as I continue to feed that to myself, guess what's going to happen next? I'm changing my thought, so I'm going to change the action. My positive affirmation says, I am no longer accepting that what is not, but does. Let me say that again. My positive affirmation is, I am no longer accepting those who do not belong to me. So guess what? I've declared that standard. Everybody can't swim up there. Just like Rolls Royce. Rolls Royce does not do any advertising. Why? Because the standard is what a Rolls Royce is. It is. The standard is there. So because the standard is there, because I went and I spoke my affirmation, I've told my brain, I'm training my subconscious, hey, look, this is what we're looking for. This is who you are. You no longer accept anything that is of low vibration. That's the beauty of the work when we're being single. That's the glory of it. Because it's like now I'm starting to fall in love with myself. I'm like, man, I kind of like this. I'm like, okay, cuz you cool. But I don't see that for us. I don't see it. I won't see it. It is not about being right or wrong. Let's get out of that mentality. Let's get out of that thinking, no, where I'm going, you can't come and you can't come. Because again, the standard is right there. It's not about you being bougie. It's not about you being haughty. It's not about you being arrogant. It's not about you being cocky. It's just being empowered. And you're living in purpose, on purpose. So y'all got a lot of work to do. We all got a lot of work to do. I'm not worried about the other kind of stuff. I'm moving towards my direct destination. And as I get closer, I've been able to put off the things that have passed, as I said before. I've been able to hold on to my emotional intelligence. I've been able to watch my tongue and those things that I speak that are negative in my life and negative into the relationships that I have alongside me. Not destroying my fellow brother, not destroying my fellow sister. And after that, there's nothing else. So I close with this. You guys, do the work. Be who you are. Be you to the fullest. Beautiful, that is. Be you to the fullest. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your singlehood. Laugh. Don't lament. Yes, I know sometimes companionship is there. And yes, I know you can't hold Jesus at night, but guess what? It'd be worse than holding a demon. It's worse to hold a demon. Be you to the fullest. And I promise you, man, there's some greatness in store for you. Y'all take it easy. God bless.
Yes, sir, James. It's most definitely better than holding on to a demon. Hey, listen, this has been one of the realest power sessions we've had this afternoon with James Bush. I told y'all what he was going to do. He was going to get you to think outside of your box and really take a good look with the mirror facing this way at you, right? James, I want to ask you a little bit about your book, Who's the Man? Gotcha. And what is the core of that book and why did you write that?
Well, Who's the Man? It just asks a question. We have so many different individuals in our society that have so many different jobs. But I want to know who's the man that's going to cure cancer. I want to know who's the man that's going to be a pillar of the community. I want to know who's the man that's going to stand up and be a mentor to young males. I want to know who's the man that's going to be an individual that's going to love his wife like Christ loved the church. I want to know who's the man that's going to operate in those capacities, despite the different challenges and the situations that a person may face. Because guess what? Let's face it, people. There's stuff out there. It's always going to be something.
Always.
Am I either going to, man, succumb to the challenges and just say, man, just F this or forget it, or I'm just going to rise and say, you know what? We can still do something great in this moment. Because I was created for such a time as this. So my point is, who's the man that's going to do that?
Yeah.
It's something that each and every one of us has to ask ourselves. What are we doing on a daily basis to get there? The book is full of prompts. The book is full of different articles that you can look, and it's just it's cut close, just real.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have another book along with that was just finished. It's called Men Inspiring Men, 365 Days of Manspiration. And that's another tool. Is positive words of wisdom, affirmations that you speak out of your mouth on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
I promise y'all, man, if y'all take a more heightened sense in this, an intentionality to this can change your life, because you can see some of the dysfunctional areas in your life. We all have them, and you can begin to speak to that. And no, it's not telling you that you are a tiger and that you are going to mount up as wings on eagles or anything along those lines, but it's going to say, hey, look, I have an area in that. I am actively working on that.
Yes.
So that I can be more empowered, so that I can be more fierce in this setting and in this season. And when you do that, I'm going to tell you one of the biggest signs you know that it's working. Yes. Biggest sign. Y'all don't hear nothing else I say. Hear this right here. You know that it's working when the crowd that you've always been around no longer suits you.
Ooh.
When the conversations that you've always had with people are just boring.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much more that your mind is thinking, your dwelling, your existence of just say, hey, look, man, I'm just, sometimes I want to chill. But man, you know what? I want to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I want to go and spend my money on this, but you know what? Maybe I want to save my money so that we can go invest in something else.
There you go.
Because, man, of that, of what I am feeding and I am telling myself.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, man, I want to go and then maybe throw some money here or throw some money off in that area right there. But you know what? I want to do something different. I don't want to give that. Matter of fact, I'll give money away, but I'll give it in a scholarship sense, as opposed to just, man, giving bubbles and strawberry shortcake and strawberry sundae on a Saturday, that bread. For those who don't know, I'm just saying.
That's good, James. That's when you know you've really outgrown. You outgrow clothes, you outgrow shoes when you're growing up.
Yeah.
That's when you know mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, you've outgrown and you've really made changes, is when your old crowd, if they weren't growing with you, if they weren't in that mindset, you outgrow them.
Outgrown.
You got to move on. And I just want to thank you so much for gracing my stage, for sharing your truths and sharing those tools that we can use and we can take away. For my men out there, I know I have a handful. I need y'all to check out James's books. Congratulations on the second book. Check out Who's the Man? And what's the name of the second book again for me?
Men. So actually, we put out 3 in the last 4 months. It's Men Inspiring Men. It's Manspirations for 365 days of the year.
Yes.
It's available in Amazon. Yes, it'll be available on Amazon. Be a new cover probably by the end of this week or next week. So man, I'm definitely excited about it. But yeah, it's one of those things of we've got to do something. We have to take an active role in this. The last but not least, the dominant society, man, has done very well at dividing us. And we have fell along right with that. But guess what? Mm-hmm. We do not have to be victims no longer in this season of our life. Because of the information that we've been given and the spirit that lives within us, we can do a whole lot better. We can grow, and we can take which was done to us, so we can take which was meant to undo us and undo it.
Absolutely, James. I am reaching out to my team right now and having them drop your link in the chat, and where they can get your book and look into all of your other resources. I need y'all to catch James on his podcast.
Yes.
Wait, I almost said the title of the book. Mind of a Man.
Yes,
There it is. Mind of a Man. Mind of a
please.
Man podcast. Need you to catch him there,
Yes.
as well as he is on Instagram regularly dropping gems such as these. So, James, I want to thank you so much for gracing the
Appreciate
stage today. And I am going to get into this wrap up as we get ready to close for this year's 4th annual Lifestyles Virtual Singles Conference. I am your host, Luana R. Wilson, and these are my closing remarks. So I had the opportunity to write and be featured for Hallmarks, as you know, Hallmark cards. Their Mahogany division had an opportunity to be featured writer for them last month on their blog, on their online blog. And the title, if you haven't had a chance to check that article out, the title of my article that was featured is called Put Some Respect on Singleness. Put some respect on singleness. Now, what was I getting at in that article? When you get a chance, check it out. However, my main point of that article, and it's something that I want to leave us with as we wrap up for today, was that, first of all, before we even talk about other people, let's talk about ourselves. Let's talk about ourselves, singles, before we even talk about anybody else. We first have to put some respect on our own singleness, because that's where it starts. If you've ever had someone older, more mature tell you that it starts with you, it really does start with you. It really does start with us as individuals. Our perspectives of our singleness will affect everything. It affects how we date or don't date. It affects how we interact with men or don't interact with men. It will affect how we interact with women or don't interact with women. It will affect our perspective of society, which is made up of men and women. There's really no way around addressing your own perspective. Our speakers today have given us some various options on how to approach that, addressing your own perspective of your singleness. Why are you not thriving in your singleness? Well, Dr. Jasmine told us that it's a possibility that your heart rhythm is off. And in her respect, she meant she was so miserable with her singleness until it was throwing off everything else in her life. And she had to get that heart rhythm back on track. She had to get with God and get on his system and get on his schedule and get that worked out so that she would be ready for what he was bringing her way. Okay? Joseph talked about introspection. And I think that has kind of, that thought has kind of bled through on just about everybody's presentation. Introspection. We do not like to look at ourselves. And I don't mean just in the mirror when we're prepping and getting ready for the day. We do not like to take an internal look up at ourselves. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you look in there, you can't unsee it. And you have to address it. Majority of us will go and push and push and drive until we just run out. Instead of being proactive and stopping to do the introspection. It's like, you know, you're going to do a cross-country trip. You're going to drive. And we're going to fill up one time. And we're going to try our best on that one fill up to make it. When we know, logically speaking, we have to multiple times stop and fill our gas tank in order to get to our destination. So as singles, we have to do that introspection. There's no way around it. If you want different in your single life, then you need to sit down with yourself, whether that's through journaling, prayer, whatever your thing is, all of the above, therapy, I say do it all. Okay? Because you're going to get something different from each one. Whatever that is, address it. It's only so many times you're going to be able to tell yourself, oh, okay, I'm going to get it. Okay, yeah, I got it. Okay. And you really don't have it. And a year later, 2 years later, still the same thing. And you're wondering why you're not getting better results. And you're wondering why you haven't got that great relationship yet. You're wondering why you keep meeting the same person with a different face and a different body. Same attitude, same red flags. It's because you're not addressing what's going on in here. So we're talking about putting some respect on singleness. The first person that's going to put some respect on it is you and me. How do I see my singleness? I need us to dissect that all the way down. And I need us to identify those areas, those pain points that are causing us to enter into relationships that are not good for us, stay in circles that are not good for us, that don't help us grow and aren't helping us change, that are causing us to act with certain behavior that is not advantageous to us and not helpful to us. I need us to drill all the way down. Now, typically with my conferences, I have a DJ for you. I got some entertainment. I got a spoken word artist. I might have some singing. I might have some all kind of things just for the liveliness of it. But this year was a serious address as we address the state of singleness. And so I scaled it all the way back for us to really focus in. I really do want you to share this out, this video, this live, and encourage your single friends to watch this. If at any time you've heard them say, I'm tired of this singleness, I don't want to be single anymore, whatever the negative connotation that they're adding to singleness, I need you to send this to them so that they can start to shift their perspective. We can listen to 99,000 podcasts. We can listen to all of the above dating coaches and so on and so forth. That's great. And they're going to give you their opinions from their perspective. But when it comes down to it, you have to make some moves. You have to put some things in motion in your life. And you may need some help doing that. And so I encourage you to get the resources, get the therapy, get the coaching so that you can see some movement, because we can't do things alone. We weren't built for that. We need to reach out and get the help that we need so that we can put some respect on our singleness. Now I'm going to switch gears here as we finish up. You know who else needs to put some respect on our singleness? Other people. Do you know that we are still operating under some 17th century stuff from way, way back in the day about what singleness is? Society and culture needs to put some respect on our singleness, okay? We are not old maids. We are not spinsters just because we're not married yet. Our eggs are not drying up. Okay, we got to get out of this negative mindset. And it's pushed so heavily in social media. It's pushed so heavily that there's something wrong with you if you're still single. And as much as I love my married folks, sometimes our married folks forget what it was like to be single, and they are the culprits at some of this negative talk. So you have to remind your married people, put some respect on my singleness. I'm living my life. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Okay? You don't have to police me. You don't have to check me. Pray for me. If you know somebody that might be a candidate, introduce me. Like, be on my team, get on my side. But don't add to the negativity. Don't give me that look when I come in and I'm cute. Okay, don't give me that look when I come in and I'm dressed and I know I look good and you feeling some type of way. Oh, she looking. Oh, okay. He here. He just here to see who the women are. He just came to see. You don't know. Okay, married folk, you don't know. And if I am looking, can I look? Can I be available? Can I make myself available? Can I be in the space so people can see and know I'm single and know I'm here? What is so wrong with that? And why do you have such an issue with it? So put some respect on my singleness. I'm going to live my life and I'm going to enjoy this single season, as we say, until I'm not single. Okay? And whatever issues other people have, you have to put them in check and you have to let them know, hey, I'm living my married life. I'm living my single life like you would live in your married life. No harm, no foul. You can be on my team and help me, or you cannot, and you can keep your commentary to yourself. But they're going to put some respect on it because we are not sad and we are not miserable, and we're not going to be sad and miserable. We are going to thrive in our singleness. We are going to go on the trips. We are going to save our money. We are going to buy the what am I trying to say? We are going to invest. I'm going to say that. We're going to invest in the things. We're going to do the things as singles until we're not single. Okay? You see what I'm saying? We're going to be moving. We're not going to be sitting still, sitting on our hands, pining away, sad about it. Okay? And these stereotypes that we allow people to place on us, we are not going to embody. We are not going to embrace them. We reject them. We don't have to be a part of that. Okay? That's what we are going to do as singles as we move forward. I know Valentine's Day is coming up. Valentine's Day, Galentine's Day, Singles Awareness Day, whatever you subscribe to. Okay, it's coming up. Do y'all know Valentine's Day was 18th century? And we still over here talking about Valentine's Day. I ain't got no Valentine. Forgive me, but who even care? It's just another day, okay? If I want to have a party, have brunch with my girls, that's what we're going to do. If I want to go out, that's what we're going to do. Here's the thing. Just live it. Just live your life. Brothers, sisters, just live your life. Put some respect on your singleness and don't allow others to dictate to you. Don't allow the cultural norms and the social media norms to dictate to you what your singleness is supposed to look like and be about. Okay? That's the way we want to end the Lifestyles Virtual Singles Conference for this year. The State of Singleness. I believe we just scratched the surface, but we had some really rich conversation today about the state of singleness. I think we really need to take a pause, have your amazing Saturday, and then come back and watch the replay. It's always good to make sure you got it. Anything you missed, you can come back, take some more notes. However, we want to get this in our system, and we want to cease from spending so much time and effort on the outside, trying to get this person to change, trying to get this situation to change. Back to my original point from earlier. You can only change yourself. Take that energy and put it this way, turn it this way, and become your best self as you are single. Biblically speaking, singleness actually is the preferred choice. Culturally speaking, in our Western culture, man has made marriage the preferred choice. Either or, married or single, you got to have faith for both. You got to trust God in both. So we are going to have faith and we are going to trust God in our singleness, and we are going to ask Him for His help to transform our hearts and minds through the information shared here today so that we can thrive in our state of Singleness, whatever state or stage you might be at. So I hope that you were able to gain something from this afternoon's conference. I so appreciate you all for being with us today. I want to thank again my amazing panelists and speakers, Dr. Jasmine Lee Morris, James Bush, as well as Joseph Wilson. I know they gave you all some really great information. That again, I want you to come back, watch the replay, let it sink in, let it lock in. All right. And you can expect some great things coming from me. Catch me on Single But Not Solo podcast as we continue to endeavor in these single streets, talking about all things pertaining to singles and giving you a fresh perspective on being single. All right. As well as my Value You coaching program. My focus is high school seniors and college freshmen, but I do coach adults. If you want to step a little bit deeper into this introspection stage of your single life and start working on your emotional intelligence, start working on things like embracing your uniqueness and leveraging your strengths, I'm your girl. Reach out to me for that. And as you can see, I have a couple of books for you there. My book I wrote comes along with a journal as well, Virgin the Book, as well as Women Who Pray, that I had the opportunity of being a co-writer with my dear sister, Carlika Bass Knight Menendez. And you can check that out as well. Reach out to me, my website, LaWannaRWilson.com, for all of that information. And this evening, for those of you who are not super busy, hop on Instagram with me. I'm doing a soft launch of my greeting cards and stationery business entitled Soulful Sayings. And so I'd love for you to join me for the soft launch. I'll be on Instagram doing that. I might hop on Facebook and do it too. Might as well. But I'll be doing that later on this evening, around about 6:30 Central Time. If you want to join me for the soft launch of Soulful Sayings, cards, and stationery, I would love to have you pop in there and check out some of the products. All right. All right. Well, I have had an amazing time, and I want to thank you once again for being with me this afternoon. Thank you for all of my help in the background, in the backstage, my virtual stage manager, Stephanie Carter. You are the girl, and all of my help in the chat, all of the love coming to me in the chat. I see y'all. Thanks so much. We're gonna go ahead and say good afternoon. Enjoy your Saturday, and again, make sure you share this with a single person who needs some help in getting a fresh perspective on their singleness as they address the state of their singleness. Until next time, y'all be blessed, and I will see you later.